Hi, my name is Sonia, and for my Women's Studies 460 midterm project part 1, I'm going to be discussing gender and what gender means and how gender affects the body. There are very many definitions of gender. One of the most common ones that I've come across is defining gender as being male or female, which I disagree because if it's defining it as male or female, it's also been synonymous with your sex, which has to do with your genitalia, and many times genitalia does not conform to your expected gender. For example, if you have a penis, you're a boy. If you have a vagina, you're a girl. And your genitalia is not indicative of your gender. According to Karen A. Martin in Becoming a Gendered Body, gender is something that we perform and do. So myself, I identify as being a girl, as being a woman, and I embody this through wearing makeup, through styling my hair, shopping. I like boys, I shave my legs, I shave my armpits, things that society expects you to do because of your gender. In ways society would expect boys to embody their gender would be having short hair, liking sports, liking women, things that would be more definitive of masculinity. There are also terms such as bigender, cisgender, and transgender which are used to describe people's relationships with their gender and their sex. Someone who is bigender would be a person who fluctuates between traditionally woman and man gender-based behavior and identities, identifying with both genders. Sometimes it could be even thought of as a third gender. Somebody who is cisgender would be a description for a person whose gender and gender identity and gender expression, as well as their biological sex, all aligns, such as myself. Transgender is a term often used to describe lots of people that are just not identifying with being cisgender. So someone whose biological sex does not equate to the gender that is typically assigned to that. So someone with a penis identifying as a woman, or somebody with a vagina identifying as a man. Being cisgender comes with a lot of expectations, and typically if these expectations are not met, people tend to react negatively. I very often embody being a female by wearing makeup, doing my hair, wearing clothes that is girl clothes, such as skirts, crop tops, thigh-high socks during the fall, all that stuff. And there's this strange feeling I get whenever I don't wear makeup or I want to go out in public wearing just like a sweatshirt and some sweatpants. I feel like I shouldn't be seen this way, or that it's embarrassing. And even when I'm in public and I see people that I know and people see me that way, they often question it and they're just like, oh, are you not feeling okay? Are you having a bad day? Like, oh, I've been there. But it has nothing to do with how I feel, because I could be feeling perfectly fine. I just didn't want to wear makeup, didn't want to do my hair, wanted to be comfortable. And the public always responds with, why? Why aren't you dressed like you usually dress with your makeup? And even though it has nothing to do with my gender identity, because they are aware of my gender identity, they are just wondering why I'm not performing it. And this is a way that embodying gender affects bodies because of how the public reacts. Being cisgendered, I don't face a lot of discrimination as I am performing what people expect me to in terms of gender. I wanted to have some insight as to what it's like not being cisgendered, and I have a friend who identifies as non-binary, non-gendered, or bigender. They don't mind being called he, him, but they prefer the term they, them, as they don't really solidly identify with either gender. They stated, I constantly think about my body and find myself facing dysphoria a lot. I feel like trans and non-binary people, including myself, face a lot of dysphoria because of the bodies we expect to have due to our gender identity. I definitely feel sometimes that I don't belong in my body because of growing up being modeled by gender roles. I constantly remind myself that I need to unlearn what gender roles and heteronormativity have taught me. Second, a lot of trans people and people who happen to be androgynous face a lot of prejudice and discrimination in their life for looking different than average cis people. especially trans women of color who face the worst misogyny in their lifetime. A lot of trans people are killed because people are afraid of what is different. Gender roles play a huge part in teaching us what our gender is and what our gender is expected to be. If you're born a boy, as a kid, even like with their toys, they're taught that boys are into cars, boys are into toy guns, their dolls are very, about the army. A lot of it is very violence related. As far as girls, the toy section is pink, purple dolls. You have the littlest pet shop playing with like puppies and kittens, and Easy Bake Oven, which is just like perpetuating, that girls cook and they should be in the kitchen and all of that stuff. When in reality, these things are not, as children, we are not choosing it. They're kind of being chosen for us, as there is like a girl section and a boy section, and many times parents just assume that their child is identifying with it, so they go along with it and just teach it until they're old enough to actually identify for themselves. One way gender roles have shaped me as being a girl is through this event that happened to me when I was younger. My older brother was very into skateboarding. He would skateboard all the time, go to skate parks. My parents would buy him skateboards, scooters when we were like 12 years old. And one year I really wanted a skateboard for Christmas, and when I asked my mom about it, she quickly denied and said, no, because I don't want you to get hurt. And I was like, okay, but my brother's over there getting scrapes on his knees and elbows. And I was questioning it, and I was just like, why? Like, why my brother does it if I don't? And then, I quickly understood that because I was a girl, I wasn't able to enjoy those types of things, and because my brother was a boy, it was more acceptable for him to. There is a piece in Karen A. Martin's article where she makes a table observing girls wearing dresses as well as like the color pink. And the results, for the most part, were on average that 61% of girls wore pink clothing each day, and boys never wore pink, avoided that color, and would wear more colors like orange, blue, greens. She states that the clothes that parents send kids to preschool shape the children's experience of their bodies in gendered ways. Clothes, particularly their color, signify a child's gender. And this goes back to when, like, babies are born, and if it's a boy, they usually use the color blue. If it's a girl, they usually use the color pink to represent that. And those are just colors that are being taught to children that signifies what your gender is. And in that way, they're performing their gender and displaying their gender in a very obvious way. Another friend of mine who is very gender fluid posted a very long Facebook status about how gender has been affecting him lately. He says, the other day my dad said he wouldn't go out in public with me if I didn't change the women's t-shirt I had on. Lately I've been dressing more and more feminine, and it's scary to walk out that door. When the discrimination is in the house, you live in it, it's tough. It keeps me from exploring myself for years. It's a slow process, but it's going. Find those people that think you're beautiful. Someone being blood related doesn't give them the pass to be discriminating towards you. This is what keeps the world down. And when people don't understand why you're not performing the gender you're expected to, they usually tend to respond in a very negative and almost violent way. This is like where like harassment starts, and bullying and constant questioning of somebody's sexuality and gender and what they are, what they identify as. And I don't know why, but when people don't understand something, they typically respond with anger or violence because they are uncomfortable or because they don't understand something. And I think that why this happens is because there is a very solid binary that is created. There is no there is boy and there is girl and there is no in between. You are one or the other. And there are a lot of people who don't identify with either or both, or they don't want to, they feel a certain way but don't really conform to the expectations that they are supposed to be. And this is because of gender roles and because of the gender binary that people don't consider a spectrum.